Freddie. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to QBSN, the podcast, episode 10. I'm here with Josh August, women's basketball beat reporter, and Freddie Martin, women's hockey beat reporter.
That's right.
So we're going to start with breaking the ice. We're going to talk some women's hockey. We talked men's hockey last week. So let's get into it. Women's hockey, 21-7-2, still a good record. Had a tough past weekend in upstate New York, lost 1-4 to Clarkson, who's given the 11th seed. But the bigger one, I think, was the 1-3 loss versus St. Lawrence,
Absolutely.
who's 10-16-3, unranked. So talk to me. What went wrong?
Yeah, so, overall, obviously this is probably their worst weekend of the season. But if you look at the history of it, they have had a lot of struggle on this road trip. In years past, even the great hockey teams, even like the 1 seed Wisconsin, they're going to have their moments. They're going to have their struggles. So, even the past, St. Lawrence up in Canton, they haven't beaten St. Lawrence up in Canton since the 2015-16 season. Mm-hmm. And Clarkson is a team that's had their number dating back to last season. That's who ended their season last year in the ECAC quarterfinals. Obviously an overall tough weekend, but there's no reason to really worry because of how well that they play at home, especially when they're coming home next weekend. They start a weekend series against Harvard and Dartmouth, but yeah.
See, I disagree with you because you said there's nothing to worry about. They're 7-5 on the road. That's barely above 500. They will not be at home come the NCAA tournament. They will not be at home come the ECAC tournament. They lost 1-4 and 1-3. They didn't compete well in either game.
I think they competed well. They outshot Clarkson and St. Lawrence in both those games. I think it was just a matter of, I think we'll get into this a little bit later, but Felicia Frank is obviously getting a lot of work in that.
We'll definitely talk.
We'll definitely touch on that. But overall, I think Frank really only had one bad game. I think Clarkson was a bad game. But if you look back to that Clarkson game,
they're still ranked. They're a ranked team.
Clarkson's a very good team, but Clarkson scored 4 goals. 3 of them were in the first period. You're going to have a bad period in hockey. Obviously, 3 goals is a very rough period, but you're going to have your moments, and I think Quinnipiac has done a very good job at limiting those so far this year. Yeah.
Freddie, Quinnipiac averages 3.3 goals per game. They had 2 goals in both games, and to me, it's been a consistent theme throughout the season. Yeah, 2 combined, I meant.
Oh, okay.
It's been a consistent theme throughout the season when they lose. If LaMarche doesn't score, they're not winning. She has 45 points and 30 goals. The next closest person is 27 points in total. So if opposing teams, especially these higher-end defensive caliber teams, shut her down, I don't really see a way that the Bobcats can have an elite offensive attack.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. So I actually wrote this down. So Quinnipiac, they're 3-4-2 in games where LaMarche doesn't record a point. Obviously, under 500, not what you want at all. But they are 7-6-2. This isn't just ECAC play. This is just overall so far this season. So including the friendship series in Belfast and stuff. So they're 7-6-2 in games where she doesn't score a goal. Obviously not up to their standard that they've played up to so far this season. But overall, I think they can win games. You've seen games where LaMarche doesn't score, and you've got Bryn Pryor stepping up, netting a few. You saw, I forget which game it was. It was a few weekends ago, but Michaela Watson had a hat trick, first hat trick by a defenseman since 2010 for a Bobcat. And outside of a Bryn Pryor empty net, the only goal scored in that game by Quinnipiac was by a defenseman. So I think they have shown some ways to step up, but it's just a matter of finding consistency behind it, because obviously what they're doing with LaMarche is working. She's one of the best scorers in the country.
Yep.
And she's 1 goal away from breaking the single season record. So,
right. Yeah. Even to touch on St. Lawrence, their record doesn't show that they're a great team, but even when they came down to Hamden earlier in the year, it was a 3-2 win for the Bobcats in overtime.
Yeah, in overtime,
you know what I mean? So it's
absolutely.
They've definitely had their number, and with Clarkson, you said the same thing. So you brought it up. Let's talk about Felicia Frank. It's kind of been a theme over the past couple of years with women's ice hockey at Quinnipiac, where the goalie they play one goalie, and it's kind of burnout in the end of the year. And I know we talked about it a lot in this podcast earlier in the year, Felicia Frank, she's playing great. Will this plague her in the end? And you're kind of starting to see that now.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to continue? Is that just like a one weekend shake-up? What do you think?
So, I mean, I still think that it is I feel like it's like a one weekend shakeup. Well, I do think that there have been cracks shown in her game just because of how often she's been playing, which is obvious. That's going to happen to anybody if you're playing for that long. But Clarkson, obviously, 4 goals, not good. St. Lawrence, she allowed 2 because the third one was an empty net. So 2 goals, again, not great, but I mean, not as bad as the scoreboard may seem. I mean, there's no doubt she's still a top goalie in the NCAA. And she's one of the main reasons why this team is where they are right now. But yeah, she's being overworked, and she also played well against Harvard 2 weekends ago, who they're playing this weekend. That she only allowed, I believe, 1 goal. And yeah, what do you got to say, Josh?
I mean, I've looked at it in terms of 2 ways. All right, you're this late in the season and you've only played 1 goalie, so there's no point now in trying to work one of the backups in.
I agree.
Because they don't have the confidence that they would have had if they played earlier in the season. And also, Freddie, do you look at this more of a lack of trust with the backups or just an over-reliance on Felicia Frank's ability?
So, Tatum Blacker, the third-string goalie, she hasn't had a lot of time on the ice just in general, but when she has, she's played kind of poorly and not up to the standards that would be a very winning hockey team. And Callie Hogarth, this is her first year at Quinnipiac. She transferred from Merrimack from last season, and well, she was at Merrimack. So I think that this is more of a dependence on her ability because, well, I mean, all credit to Callie Hogarth and Tatum Blacker, but I mean, Felicia Frank, I think, is just on another level, especially, and it's so hard to have a tandem of elite goalies, especially in the NCAA with college athletes. So I think that, it's just an over-reliance on Frank's talent, which she has so much talent, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she has a 94.5 save percentage in 30 games. That's outstanding. So
I'd also like to touch, next season, because Callie Hogarth is a senior, Tatum Black is graduating. So Bobcats are going to be they have 9 first years coming in next year. 1 goalie coming in. Her name's Natalie Dilbone. She's from Michigan. She was the youngest goalie selected for the 2024 U18 Women's World Championship. She represented Team USA. And Frank's going to be a junior next year, so that I can almost guarantee that she's going to see a lot of ice time next year, and especially I feel like Quinnipiac's really going to learn off of especially Cass Turner and Brent Hill. That whole coaching staff is going to realize that, hey, we can't do that again. It worked. She's played amazing, but definitely going to try and get the first year in net, and that will hopefully take some of the load off Frank.
Yeah. Now, looking down the line, the last couple games left on their schedule, you talked Harvard, Dartmouth, then Brown, and number 8, Yale.
Yep.
So as far as the ECAC goes right now, Princeton, 8th in the country, is number 1. Clarkson, 11th in the country, is number 2. Yale is number 3. Quinnipiac, 4. And Brown is 5.
Yep.
So how do you see them finishing out, and then where will that lead them come the end of ECAC play and the ECAC tournament?
So their only loss in their remaining 4 games is to Brown back in October. They broke Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac started the season 9-0, and they lost to Brown. And Brown is a very good team. They're ranked 18th in the MPI right now. So looking at their remaining schedule, so Yale's number 9 in the MPI. Brown is 18, like I said. Harvard's 21, and Dartmouth is the weakest of the link, 39, which, I mean, it isn't much to talk about, but still, that's 3 out of 4 solid opponents that I think that Quinnipiac can absolutely beat, and they've shown that they can beat. Teams change a lot from going back to what I said about Brown and how they beat them 1-0. Teams change a lot. That was back in October, so I think that they're a very different team now. But I think that they should have no problem taking care of Harvard and Dartmouth this weekend, and they play so unbelievably well at M&T Bank Arena. They're 12-1-1 this year. They wouldn't be where they are without how great they are on their home ice. Right. So yeah,
I mean, they beat Harvard 4-1 at home on January 7th. They are the better team in terms of that matchup. I expect them to treat the rest of the season like playoff games, especially after last weekend's disappointment, I mean, you have to hope that what we saw 2 weeks ago versus Cornell and Colgate, that they can replicate that success going forward to finish off the year strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that overall, where I see them finishing in the ECAC, I think they'll get a top 4 seed. I think they'll get a bye. But I'm going to kind of reiterate what my good friend Eli Ehlers was saying on Bobcat Breakdown on Tuesday. Shout out Q30. That I think they might be better off finishing as a 5 seed. So they're 3.5 points up on Brown right now, which is the next person below them, or the next team below them. So I think they will get a top 4. But the 5 seed might be the best case scenario for them because hockey's all about consistency. So if you get the bye, you don't play that first weekend of playoffs.
Yep.
Might throw off preparation or something like that. Whereas if you get the 5 seed, you get to play that next weekend after the Yale Brown weekend, and you're going to be playing the worst team record-wise or points-wise in the ECAC, which will probably, in my opinion, help them. Just playing a worse team, and then keeping the momentum going, keeping just overall keeping consistency within the schedule.
Right. Now, Harvard and Dartmouth coming up this weekend. Well, this Friday, Saturday. They're both away. We've talked about their kind of away struggles. But you said you thought they'd win both those games, so you expect them to bounce back. Who are you looking for to step up?
There's a lot of people I would love to see to step up, especially with LaMarche if LaMarche doesn't score. Bryn Pryor is one person that stands out to me. She had a 2-goal game against Cornell a few weekends ago, and she's really just overall been a great shot taker. Very selective, so she's not taking a lot of shots, but I feel like she's very selective and she knows when to shoot the puck. So I think that's a team that, with the right lines, she can absolutely step up. And Laurence Fournette is another player that I think can absolutely really step up. She also had a goal in that Cornell game, the one that Bryn Pryor had too. Mm-hmm. And yeah, overall, I think that those are the two players I'm definitely looking forward to watching and seeing if they can really step up to the challenge, especially because Harvard will be playing their I believe will be playing their top goalie. I forget what her name is, but yeah.
Now, Freddie and Pat, a player we haven't mentioned yet is their second leading scorer, Emerson Jarvis, right? This is a player that when LaMarche gets shut down, I would like to see Jarvis really step up and create those high danger chances, set up the players like Laurence Fournette, like Bryn Pryor, to get the rest of the team involved, because right now it's kind of a two-headed monster, and then I would say a pretty sizable drop-off.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, but I think that Jarvis has really also stepped up because the last time she didn't score a point was against Harvard back on January 17th. So she's getting involved on the ice at all times, whether it's scoring, whether it's getting an assist. I think that she's overall doing a great job as a number 2, but I also think that because of LaMarche's excellence this year and how good she's been, I think it's also kind of
shadowed.
Yeah, it's also that's a good word for it. She definitely shadowed her performance. I think that she's been an absolutely fantastic player for this hockey team, and if LaMarche wasn't putting up the record-breaking season she is right now, I think we'd be talking about her a lot more.
Yeah, and I think for Jarvis, the thing that she gives Quinnipiac such an advantage with her speed. Almost every game, she's the
quick.
fastest player out there. So, to your point, setting up those, maybe she's not getting every goal, but she's setting up assist opportunities. To your point, she's getting assists.
Yeah, whereas I think LaMarche is like she can get assists at time, but she's mainly scoring. She's primarily scoring, whereas Jarvis is getting involved on all sides of the puck.
Right. And then talk to me a little bit about Tessa Hulk.
Tessa Hulk is a dog. I love Tessa Hulk. She was out for a little bit at the beginning of the season. Right. But overall, I think she's played a great she's overall just had a great season so far. And I mean, I don't really have much to say on Hulk. I feel like she's been
What do you think she's going to do? What are you looking for her to do for Bobcats come ECAC tournament and NCAA?
Yeah. So like I said, she's been having a good year, but maybe a little underwhelming. Overall, I expect to see her step up. I'm not saying she has to, you have to score a goal, you have to get an assist, whatever. But I think that for Hulk, the main thing is the stats that aren't on the stat sheet. I think it's It's speed on the ice. It's
The 50-50 pucks?
Yep. It's 50-50 pucks. It's face-offs. It's everything that the stat sheet doesn't show. And overall, for winning hockey teams, like those kind of players are what ultimately helps them win more games.
Right. Now, where do you guys see the Bobcats ending? Let's start ECAC.
ECAC? Are we talking like
Tournament?
Play? We're talking like in the
Well,
tournament.
let's go regular season and then where you think they'll finish in the tournament.
I think they'll. I expect them to move up to third in the ECAC standings. I think first place, second place is a little bit out of reach. They would need to win out, and they would need Princeton and Clarkson to pretty much lose out. But I expect them to get the 3 seed. If not, I don't see them at all dropping down to bearing some unpredictable collapse. I don't see them dropping down to the 5 seed. So I think they will get that bye, and that could give Felicia Frank that rest that she absolutely deserves and needs. Josh, you want to?
Yeah, so like you guys mentioned earlier, maybe getting the 5 seed on paper is worse, but maybe it's better for the team, get that hot hand going. Yeah, I don't see a way that they don't end the season with the first round bye, finishing 3rd, 4th. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then tournament.
Yeah. This ECAC tournament should actually be very, very fun. The conference is arguably the best conference in women's college hockey this year, and in just college hockey in general on the men's side as well. So they lost to Clarkson in the quarterfinals last year. If they see them again, I'm interested to see that matchup. But I do think that this team definitely has the pieces to go all the way. They struggled against Princeton. I forget what month they played, but earlier in the season they got swept because they're travel partners, so they play one weekend. So they did get swept in that. I think that Princeton and Clarkson are the 2 main threats that I see standing in their way. But other than that, they've shown against every ECAC team that they can absolutely beat them, bearing a bad performance against Brown next weekend. But, I mean, overall, that they've shown that they can definitely beat every team in the ECAC and win that tournament up in Placid.
Go ahead.
So now, Freddie, you said that they did get swept by Princeton. They lost 3-4 and 0-2. Now, it's hard to be a really good team 3 times in a row, which is why if they were to match up again in the ECAC tournament, I would give the benefactor to Quinnipiac. And you also have to look at it like this. I know we talked a lot about, overplaying the goalie, the lack of scoring outside like the top 2, but they have Kaylin LaMarche, who for the most part is going to be the best player in any game.
Yep.
You have that superstar power. I think that they are going to make the championship game at the bare minimum.
Yeah, and going back to what I said about Tessa Hulk and what doesn't show up on the stat sheet is ultimately the biggest thing that helps teams win games. Cass Turner's talked about in the press conferences all year about how tightly knit that team is in the locker room, and that is honestly an underappreciated aspect of not just hockey but sports in general. And I think that having a tightly knit locker room, especially this is a team that is now without Jad Barbarati and assistant head coach Brent Hill because of the Olympics. They'll be back for the tournament, but they've lost some players and then gotten them back a couple months later. I think that overall their ability to adapt to losing players, they have the tools to beat every ECAC team just because of how tightly woven that locker room is. And just their ability to, it doesn't matter who's on the ice. It's always working. They're always finding shots. They're always getting sticks in the lane. It's yeah.
Right. Now, can the Bobcats make a deep run in the ECAC playoffs if Frank is not on her game? If she does reach that burnout point we've seen multiple years in a row, not just from Frank, but from a bunch of Quinnipiac goalies. Even with LaMarche on, can they still make that deep run?
I don't think they can. I think that, again, we've only seen Frank this season outside of one period back in September of Callie Hogarth. But if Frank isn't on, LaMarche can score, like, she might have 2 goals, she might have a hat trick, but it's so hard to win hockey games in general if your goalie just has a bad game, and especially in a single elimination playoff like this. It's going to be so interesting to see if she, well, especially this weekend, if she can bounce back, but taking that into the ECAC playoffs, if she can kind of re-grab that dominance she had from earlier in the season.
And what if we flip it and LaMarche isn't on, but Frank is on.
I think,
Then
I think they can absolutely make a run. I think LaMarche doesn't have to be on because when Frank's on, she's not giving up any goals. Like, if you go back to her game logs, when she is on, and she's not letting anything through. I mean, it's especially as someone who's watched a lot of her games in person, it's definitely a sight to see. The Great Wall of Frank, if you will.
Great Wall of
the Great Wall of Frank.
No, Freddie, I'm gonna have to disagree with you because when they've lost games, they've lost 0-1, 0-2, 1-2. It's not games where they're scoring 5 goals and Frank is still giving up a lot. If they score, they pretty much win, a very high percent of the time. I mean, they scored 2 goals in total this past weekend and lost. So I think that, while yes, it is hard for to win a hockey game when your goalie isn't on her A game, but if the rest of the offense and the rest of the team can pick her up and they can score 3-4 goals, I think Frank could have a C or a B+ game, and they could still find a way to win.
All right. Now, NCAA's, just give me where you think they'll start and finish.
In the NCAA tournament? That's a tough one. I got to think to the future for that.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. I want to hear your take on
I don't
this.
think that they are going to make it to the Frozen Four. I mean, you have Ohio State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Penn State. To me, those are the clear top 4 teams. And then you have your teams like in the 5 through 8 seed, Quinnipiac in that range. But I look at, teams like Wisconsin. They have 4 of the top 5 scorers in the country on that team. Quinnipiac has 1, and that's LaMarche. You have a Wisconsin powerhouse that has 4 of the top 5 scorers. I mean, that's ridiculously hard to stop.
Absolutely, but they've also had gone on stretches where they've shown that they could be a top 5 team in the country. If they do make the NCAA tournament, I can absolutely seeing them make it to a Frozen Four. I think that's their ceiling is a Frozen Four. Obviously, you mentioned powerhouses like Ohio State and Wisconsin. I think that they're just on an upper echelon, if you will. But I think that absolutely they can make a Frozen Four, especially if they get the right matchups. If they don't have to play like a Wisconsin in the first round.
It's all matchup dependent.
It is all matchup dependent, yeah.
All right. Well, I love it. Now, a couple housekeeping things. I said it last time. I'm going to say it again. Tune into Bobcat Game Day on Q30TV.com/watch at 4 p.m. February 14th. The Quinnipiac University Bobcats women's basketball taking on Fairfield in the Bank. Game day itself will start about an hour and a half earlier, I believe.
Pre-game coverage.
Yep. And then next episode coming up in 1 week. It'll be posted next Friday. Adam Shamim from
the Dream.
QBSN is coming on to talk acro and tumbling on the podcast.
Yes, sir.
That'll be fun. But to you guys, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on.
for having me.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. We had a great time.
Of course, ton of fun. Thank you, Andrew Goodness, behind the scenes.
Shout out Andrew
making
Goodness.
it happen.
Shout out Goodness.
My favorite Dodgers fan.
I unfortunately don't have a camera tonight, but thank you guys.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.